Morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's one of those days, y'all. I got some questions for you. What opens with the birds chirping and Mole Face on horseback taking his morning ride, and then he sees a crowd around the body, and he looks and he realizes that it's Sir George. He's been pulled out of the water. And then what ends with Quigley being told by the fancy man that Sir George was already dead when he left the Wells brothel. At the same time that we talk about his death, Miss Fanny is giving birth. If you guessed Harlots Season 1, Episode 7, you're correct. I'm about to review, recap. Please stick around. I'm Angela. The channel is Be Fabulous You. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of those other things. And thank you for your likes, comments, and subscribes. Okay, so I'm got to do this again, y'all, because I knocked the thing off the thing, and it's one of them days. You know how some days be them kind of days? It's one of them days. So the body of Sir George has been, pulled out of the water. He's surrounded by a crowd. And then we're at the Wells brothel, and Mama Wells is letting us know that North and baby boy Jacob never came back after dumping the body. She's going to look for them. Little girl Lucy says she's going too, because she will not be cosseted anymore. And then we see Charlotte and her Irish man Marnie awakening together. He's holding her, and they're in that attic that I was like, what attic is she in? A couple episodes ago when she didn't have anywhere to go. She did have somewhere to go. And she says she is going to the Wells brothel to see about her mom and her sissy. And he's like, you need to worry about me and you. Let them people deal with fend for themselves. And she like, you must not have any family. You don't know anything about family. He like, my family is scattered all over the place and they take care of themselves. Like, you need to take care of yourself. But since I'm trying to establish trust with you, I'm going to go to the brothel. You stay here. I'm going to go check on things. Okay. And then we see Emily Lacey. She's tied up and she's begging. Oh, please, please, please. And Quigley is standing over her. And Quigley says, I thought that Charles was a fighter, so I kept him, but he's weak. And Emily Lacey says, he does have a big, kind heart, and it pains me that I hurt him. And Quigley is like, girl, you don't know nothing about no true pain. And then she binds her mouth, what do they call it? Not handcuff it, but, she ties up her mouth so she can't talk. And then she leaves. That's some scary stuff right there. Now, that's a threat, and that's a scary threat. And then we're three of the Wells brothel's harlots are breakfasting, and in comes the freed fake wife Harriet. And she like, where are the Wells family at? Are we expected to act as if nothing happened here last night? Have they left us here to deal with this mess? Are we about to get in trouble and get hung? We deserve to know. And then Frenchie is like, yeah, even Madam Quigley does not murder the gentleman. And then there's a knock on the door. And the head harlot in charge is like, look, y'all, be cool. Just do your jobs that you get paid to do. Then we see Haxby and Moleface. One of them has the head and one of them has the toe, the foot of Sir George. He's on a stretcher and they're surrounded by a small crowd. Then we see Wells knocking and yelling at Nancy's door. Nancy is the S&M lady with the pirate hat. And Nancy opens the door. She's like, you betrayed Emily Lacey. And then she says to little girl Lacey, and you stay your behind out here and out of grown folks' business. And I think little Lacey tries to protest, but Nancy is like, girl, stay on this porch and do something, play in the dirt or something. And the Mama Wells is like, but my daughters, what was I supposed to do, Nancy? I didn't have a choice. And Nancy is like, you are not motivated by a mother's love. You are motivated by greed. You are basically Quigley. And I'm not surprised that man North left you and took his son. It's a sin and a shame what's going on over there. What y'all, what's going on. And then we see Violet and Blondie Betsy. They're yelling at the betraying bawd Margaret Wells as she leaves about revealing Emily to Quigley after noticing her while they were talking about Sir George being robbed and killed. And Lucy is like, don't say anything bad about my mommy. She has her reasons. And then we see Haxby and Char. And Haxby is telling the Moleface, Sir Moleface, that Shar and the Irish tried to come here to rob us. This is not some anonymous murder. It's them. And Moleface is kind of doubtful of the story. And Haxby is like, they were covered in blood and filth, but I had no idea that they had just killed Sir George. And then the Moleface is like, well, Shar did kind of make some outlandish accusations the other 2 nights ago. And then Hax is like, she is a fiend dressed as a damsel, and we're going to tell the magistrate to get justice done. And then we see Quigg back at her brothel. And Charles is talking to her. He's like, I was looking for you last night, Mom. Where were you? And Madam Quigg is like, I've been out looking for Emily Lacey, who has been lost to the gutter and left me with her debt and also a lesson. I learned that kindness is a cruelty, and I have made you soft by trying to protect you. And then we see at the magistrate's office, the assistant is saying, a young girl has been kidnapped. And magistrate is like, Sir George Howard has been slaughtered. All else waits. And then we see Shar. She tired of waiting for Irish. She heading out. Then we see little girl Lucy and Mama Wells on the street. Mama Wells she's coming into the brothel, and she meets with her staff to tell them the official story of Sir George's visit and departure. And she lets them know that his body was found today. And she says that if anybody knows something different from what I just told you, you better say it now. And nobody really says anything, but the free fake wife Harriet says, where's North? And Madam Wells is like, I don't know. And Fanny and the fake free wife are like, we need to talk to you. And then there's a knock, knock, knock at the door, and we hear Charlotte, Lucy. And then we see the Wells family together. And Mama is like, it's good that his body is found, because his last known location was here. And Charlotte is like, it's not good for me. I was at his house last night, and we had a big public fight 2 nights ago. And the mom is like, you're a fool. It's your fault. Leave. No one has to die. Just leave the country. You land on your feet as always. And Charlotte is like, yeah, because you taught me to be a hoe. Thanks. And then the people come in and they arrest Charlotte for murder. And then we see the daughter of Amelia Scamwell. She's looking out of the window, and she tells her mother, Charlotte Wells has been arrested. And Scamwell goes to the Quigley brothel, and she tells Quigley, Margaret Wells has been arrested. But not before Madam Quigley tells her son Charles about Scamwell's harlot history. And she just mean? Quigley, you mean. And then Scamwell's like, just please keep Amelia safe. And Quigley is like, whatever. London is dangerous, boo-boo. And then Margaret Wells says, Madam Quigley has dropped her prize in the gutter. And then we see Fanny with her constable client. And he's like, you don't seem yourself. They trying to have sex. Are you under the weather? And then she changes him up and tries to give him a hand job. And she's like, I'm not really under the weather. I'm having a baby. And he's like, what? Stop. I'm not turned on anymore. This isn't exciting. And she's like, you will come back, won't you? I don't think it's your baby. A brothel baby doesn't belong to anybody. And he give her some money. He look, this is all the money I can spare. Some people come to a brothel to forget. I came to a brothel to remember my wife when I first got with her. That's before the kids. But, now that you having a kid, it's a whole different story. It's a pitiless world for moms. And then we're in the brothel hallway with Madam Wells and the fake free wife Harriet. North said he would help me get my children back. I need money. And Madam Wells, my daughter was just dragged away. Harriet, look, I appreciate your pain, but you better appreciate my pain. You think your children, their lives are worth more than my children's lives? As important as your children's lives are to you, my children's lives are to me. My children's lives matter. She ain't say that, but that's what I'm saying, because that's basically what she's saying. And then the Irish comes, and he's like, I'm here to check on you. Charlotte sent me, and Wells is real dry to him. I don't know you, and Charlotte has just been arrested. And Irish is like, she was arrested for your crime. And then he's like, if you don't make this right, I'm gonna tell. And Lucy's like, when he leaves, oh my God, is he gonna tell on you, Mama? And Madam Mama Wells is like, he don't love that girl enough to risk getting hung himself over her. And then as Mama Wells is about to leave, a man is coming to the door, and he's like, I heard you had an ace of spades. I'm like, ace of spades? And then Mama Wells is like, Harriet? And Harriet comes and she sees what's going on, and she's like, okay, I'll be your ace of spades for now. And then, Lil Lucy follows out the constable client as he's leaving, and drops the dime on Irish to the constable client, and Irish is arrested. Lucy, you doing the most when you couldn't even do the least. You know what I mean? It's like you doing a lot, girl. You messing stuff up. And then you trying to help, but you ain't helping. Then we see the assistant, the magistrate's assistant, tells him Lydia Quigley kidnapped Emily Lacey. And the magistrate is like, you sewing the hoes and harlots and stuff. Did you hear that Charlotte Wells is in the brothel? She's supposed to be the most beautiful harlot out here. Go look at her or something. I don't think he wants him to look at him, but look at her. And then the day after tomorrow is Charlotte's trial, and then there'll be a hanging in 5 days if she's found guilty. That's what we find out when Mama Wells has tried to unsuccessfully advocate for Charlotte's freedom outside of the magistrate's office. Irish tells Charlotte that your mother had me turned over to the law. And Charlotte is like, my mama ain't into the law. And Irish is like, your mom is into whatever she needs to be into. And then we see Violet waiting for Amelia as the Scamwells come home. And Amelia is like, we've been seen. I can't continue. And Violet is like, been seen by your mama? She can't see. And she's like, oh, but it would break my mother's heart if she knew. And Violet is like, girl, you trying to spare your heart, not your mama's heart. Come on now. And then Violet is leaving, and then the fancy dress guy comes up to Amelia and says, you said you would help. Well, I need your help now. And he takes her to his home where his lover is really, really sick, on his deathbed maybe, but very sick. And he says, she looks at him and she's like, you need a doctor, you need a physician. And the fancy dress man is like, I ain't got no money. And even if I had the money, a doctor is not coming here. And Amelia is like, if you can get the money, I will get a doctor to come here. And then the fancy dress man is like, oh, some costs are too much. And she's like, are you worried about his death because you're a sinner? And he's like, love is not a sin. And then we see Lydia Quicks in the magistrate's office. And she is advocating for the release of Charlotte. And the magistrate is like, Charlotte and the Irishman murdered a baron. So now we know that Lydia Quicks, she's like, oh, drop the prize in the gutter. I'm about to buy her. She's the best harlot in town. She sees her as a prize. Whew. And then we see Charles coming into the Quigley lobby to Nancy. What are you doing here, Nancy? Little boy, you want me to pull some candy out from behind your ear? Your mama has stolen something. My mama didn't steal anything. Your mama steal people all the time. She's vengeful. My mother don't care nothing about no Emily Lacey. When have you known your mother to drop anything? Your mother feeds on vengeance, and she's a people taker. And then we see Margaret Wells. She's continuing on her Help Char tour, and she's pleading with the estate manager, Haxby, on Char's behalf. And then we see Char. She's been brought up to the magistrate's office. The magistrate is asking her, does Irish love you? Was it his idea? You'll be burned at the stake. I could have saved you. And then Charlotte is like, yeah, the crime for women, the punishment for women is worse. Oh, what a surprise. Women suffer more, even in death. Why don't you just let us live, magistrate? Neither me or Daniel Max Marby killed Sir George. And then we see Margaret is back. She's at her her business, and Scamwell's in the parlor, and she says, we are interested in the same demon, Quigley. Let us unite against her. Do it for sweet Amelia. I see a virtue in you. I'm praying for Charlotte, because Mama Wells is like, I ain't got time to be worrying about Quigley. I'm trying to save my girls. And then Irish is brought into the magistrate's office, and he says we are both innocent. And then the magistrate is like, look, women like Charlotte do not hang, but somebody, i.e. you, is going to hang for this crime. And then we see Harriet with Madam Wells and Lucy. And Madam Wells is like, I'm tired of hearing about your children. And Harriet is like, you need to give me whatever money you got. I need to buy my children, or I'm going to scream everything I know to anybody who will listen. And then Mama Wells gives her some money, and she says, this is all I have, take it. And then Lucy is like, she took you in. Lucy, didn't I tell you was doing too much and to go sit down someplace? You doing too much. Okay, so then we see Harriet at Lennox's place, and she's looking for her children, and the person at the door is like, they already left. But I don't think they left the country. And then we see the harlot, the blondie Betsy, that's the one that was with Violet, who works for Nancy, and she's with the magistrate's assistant. So maybe in the beginning, I remember the magistrate's assistant was in a relationship with a harlot. Maybe they're in a relationship, not just sexual relationships, but you know, they got a thing going. And he's like, the magistrate didn't care about Emily Lacey. And we know it's because the magistrate has guessed that Lacey is the next virgin sacrifice to his virgin, hungry, demonic clients. And Blondie Betsy brings the magistrate's assistant to Nancy, the S&M pirate lady. And he says, I fear that the magistrate is involved and Emily Lacey is in worse danger than we thought. And then we see Quigley leaving her brothel, and she's unlocking a door in a dark alley. And she's kind of like nursing, you know, putting some water and stuff on Emily Lacey. And Emily Lacey is crying and she's terrified. And Quigley is like, the hounds are coming. And then Quigley leaves and a man comes in and it's the magistrate. And then Charles comes and the magistrate leaves. And I don't know what the conversation was, but when Emily gets her hands free, she slaps she slaps Charles. And Charles is like, I was trying to help. And then Nancy comes in and he's beating, you know, Charles. She's beating Charles too. You knew all along. No. And then Emily Lacey is like, take your face out of your mommy's titties and figure out what's up. And, you know, man up. And then we see the magistrate. I think it's with Fallon that he's with. And Fallon is like, Char killed above her station. Punish her hard. Is the virgin ready? And the magistrate is like, Char will be punished. But the virgin and the locale have been compromised. And I want a seat at the table that I was promised. And Fallon is like, well, I'll take your request back to the others, but it'll probably be denied. And then the magistrate is like, okay, well, you take my farewell back to the others as well. And then Fallon is like, you better be careful, sir. And then we see Lucy. And she's talking to her mother, and she's like, I'd rather be dead than see Charlotte dead for something that I did. And then Mama Wells is like, all the girls in this house are going to die. I'm going to die. You going to die. Everybody going to die. Girl, simmer down. Let me try to handle this mess that you done got us into, or that life done got us into. Jacob will be reading in the paper about our hanging. And then little girl Lucy, oh, I'm sorry. And her mother is like, get out. Get out! And then we see Fancy Dress talking to his sick bed lover. I'm going to do something for you, baby. I love you. And then we see him at the Quigley brothel with Madame Quigley. And Charles comes in, and Charles Quigley says, Charles, where have you been? And Charles is like, looking for Emily. She is gone. And then Madame Quigley says, fate lays a snare for the wicked. You're bleeding. You haven't recovered yet. Go and rest. And Charles is like, okay. And then we see Fancy Dress telling Madame Quigley, I got a nugget for you, but it's worth more than a couple coins. And then, you know, he keeps holding his hand out till he feels like he has enough, probably to help get a doctor for his lover, his husband, his partner. And then he tells her that Sir George was already dead when he left the Wells brothel. And then we see Fanny giving birth. We see Irish in jail with Char. They're kind of snuggled up. We see Lucy and Mama Wells in separate rooms looking off in pain, and we see that, you know, North and baby boy haven't come back. So that is the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, commenting, subscribing. And remember, fabulous one, be you, be fabulous you. Peace.